Hello, everybody. It's Thor. And if you've been watching the news today, the United Kingdom has a new prime minister, Rishi Sunak. And this comes right after Liz Truss resigned after only being prime minister for 1 month. And then prior to that, it was Boris Johnson that resigned. So I spent today rectifying Rishi's chart so that we could have a chart to look at today using 7 different milestones in his life. And so I'm really confident about the birth time that I was able to get through the rectification process. And we're going to take a look and see how is he going to be as a prime minister, and also what got him there. He wasn't really elected. He was just kind of placed there through many different circumstances and 2 different resignations that happened. So that indicates there was a lot of karma at play. Remember, in the Vedic thought, everything is karma. So there is no accident. The fact that he was at the right place at the right time to be able to become prime minister was all as a result of his past life karma. So when we're looking at the birth chart, that's really what we're seeing. We're seeing a layout of all the karma and how he got to become a prime minister. And we're going to see that he's got quite a strong chart to be a world leader. For those of you guys that are new to my channel, please make sure that you like and subscribe. And thank you to all of you that have purchased readings and all your support, because it really does help the channel. And just as a reminder, I practice sidereal Vedic astrology, not Western tropical astrology. We're almost at 1,500 subscribers, and the goal is 10,000 subscribers. Hopefully, we'll get there in another year. I'm setting that goal, and we'll see what happens. And then if you're interested in a reading, check down below for details. So let's take a look at Rishi Sunak's bio right here. And I gave you just a quick few bullet points. This isn't a layout of his life by any means, but he's basically the youngest prime minister to take office in the last 200 years. He's the first prime minister of Indian descent, and he's very wealthy. So he married Akshata Murthy, daughter of an Indian billionaire, and the couple is among the 250 most wealthy people in the United Kingdom. So very wealthy couple and very connected couple, and was able to, become prime minister. He was the finance minister under Boris Johnson, so he was already connected to the cabinet and the politics. And we'll discuss that when we look at the chart here. So let's actually look at the chart. Let's get off the presentation here. But one of the things I looked at when I was rectifying the chart was there was a few dates. There was actually in 2014, I think he was actually elected to the parliament. And then when Boris Johnson appointed him to become the finance minister in 2019, and then when he resigned as Boris Johnson's finance minister in July of 2022. So that's how detailed I got with rectifying the birth time. We really went through all those dates of different events. So let's go take a look at the chart here. This is actually quite an intense chart. Rishi is a Leo Lagna. And look at all these planets in the first house. One of the first things that I notice right off the bat is Saturn in the first house. And what you'll notice is a lot of people that become world leaders have Saturn in the first house. And the reason why they have Saturn in the first house is because it takes so much endurance going through political campaigns and going through the process of becoming a leader and moving up the hierarchies. It really does take quite a thick skin to be able to do that. And Saturn is the one that's really good at moving up hierarchies, because Saturn is the karaka of hierarchies, both governmental and institutional, and even corporate hierarchies. So let's go back to the chart here. And you'll also notice Mars is there. There's just a bunch of energy here. Mars is there. That's the Yoga Karaka planet for Leo Lagna. And then we have Jupiter there. And then we have Rahu there. So there's a little bit of commonality there with Kamala Harris's chart. They both have Rahu in the first house. Rahu in the first house, it's a lifetime that's mostly focused on self development. So they're less focused on others. And when I mean others, it's like the spouse or like partners. They're less focused on the partner, more focused on the self. It's not, it might seem narcissistic at face value, but it's actually a soul. The soul has signed up to really learn about the self and explore how the self experiences different types of things. There's a lot of karma there. So we're going to unpack this because shortly, within about a month, Rishi's going to be in the Mars Mahadasha. And this is going to be a very intense period, especially because it's right next to Saturn. And this is like when you have Mars and Saturn together, it's like driving a car, having one foot on the gas, one foot on the brake. So you see this push-pull dynamics, really difficult placement. However, if you can really manage the energy of that placement, it becomes a tremendous endurance type of yoga. It can actually become a strength because Saturn doesn't want to give up, Mars doesn't want to give up, so then the personality becomes somebody that just does not give up, and they become extremely tenacious. So let's go back to the chart here. All right. And one thing I wanted to point out also is Sun in Aries is exalted. This is an intensely powerful planet in Rishi's chart. And also just the fact that there's this idea of all this positive past life karma that's really propelled him to this post that he's in as prime minister. And we're going to find out when we look at the Bhukti that he's in a Sun Bhukti at the moment. And that's what's getting him to become a prime minister, is the Sun right here. And the Sun is all about leadership, confidence, authority, and he's a Leo. It rules the first house. So this is just like, it is literally like all the stars have literally lined up to make this happen. I'm going to clean this up for a moment. Also, you'll notice that Venus is in the 11th house. And in a lot of ways, Venus in the 11th house, this represents the spouse. The spouse comes from a very wealthy family, as indicated by the 11th. So the family of the spouse is very well connected and very wealthy. So Venus in the 11th house there. That's what we could interpret that as. Also, you'll notice with Jupiter in the first house, Jupiter rules the 8th house. So this could show a personality that's very influenced by the in-laws. Okay, making a little box in the 8th house there. But very much influenced, very much connected to the in-laws. Okay, like in a lot of families, when you get married, a lot of people tend to be very disconnected from the in-laws. According to Rishi's chart, not him. Very connected to their families, and the in-laws are quite influential. Okay, so what we're going to do now, let me go take us to the presentation just to make sure I didn't miss something important here. Leo Lagna, Moon in Aries. Oh, I forgot to mention, that's a very much warrior energy. The Varna is Kshatriya with Moon in Aries there. Saturn in first house creates many world leaders. Rahu in first house is the self, and there's a desire to elevate the self. We talked about Sun being exalted. Also, Sun exalted in the 9th could show strong, moral principles. And I know that when he got sworn in, he got sworn in on a copy of the Bhagavad Gita. So I'm assuming he's read it quite a bit and has quite a bit of moral principles there, especially with Sun in the 9th house. Okay, so the time period that he's in, this is quite interesting. He's in Sun Bhukti at the moment. This is a very narrow Bhukti. It's only a Bhukti of, 5 or 6 months? So it started May 16th, 2022, and it ends November 15th, 2022, which is next month. But let's take a look at what Sun represents in the chart. We're going to take you to the chart to show, because this is what's basically flavoring Rishi's consciousness, so to speak, right now. So we were just talking about, he's in a Sun period right now. It's exalted. And the most important thing to really be aware of with this is it's activating the first house. So it's all about being in the spotlight. This is like whenever a Leo Lagna goes through either a Sun Bhukti or a Sun Mahadasha, it's like you're in the spotlight. And it's a very important dharmic period of time. So this is definitely not an accident. Ninth house, this is a dharmic type of situation, part of his dharma, part of his life script. And I know a lot of people, and there's a lot of people out there that, you know, when they hear about somebody having quite a bit of wealth, there's some people that get quite envious. And so sometimes people tend to judge somebody because they're wealthy. But you know, with the chart I'm looking at, this shows somebody that actually has a strong moral character. And it also shows that the reason why they have quite a bit of wealth is because of past life good deeds. They literally had, he literally has the good karma for it. And I know that's really hard to, you know, accept in a world where it's really polarized. And, you know, there is a lot of issues with, you know, income inequality and so forth. It is something important to look at. But in samsara, we have to realize this really is a world that's governed by karma, and it's not necessarily fair. I mean, we just look at the world. It isn't a fair place. Well, karma is what explains all of that. Let's go back to the chart here. That's actually what happened when I started believing in karma was when I went through my awakening process, and I just reverted back to me. When I went through my awakening process, I started really, you know, wondering, why is the world so unfair? You know, some people are born really successful. Some people, you know, they have really difficult lives. Some people are healthy. Some people are sick. And that really was an awakening process. And I realized, yeah, this isn't fair. And that's when I was introduced to, over 10 years ago, when I got introduced to Vedic astrology. So that's a little bit of an aside, but it's part of life. Let's go back to the paint here. So Sun Mahadasha is activating, or sorry, Sun Bhukti, not Sun Mahadasha. It's activating Rahu. And what Rahu's doing with the Rahu activation right now, this is creating the opportunity. Remember how I told you in some other videos, Rahu is all about setting up events. Oops. Rahu's all about events that elevate you out of nowhere. So basically in the chart, it's like Liz Truss resigns, there's this void, there's this opening, and there's this opportunity to be able to become prime minister. So that's all type of a Rahu thing. So when I was doing the rectifying process, I was like, I'm quite sure Rahu is involved, and it is, because Sun is activating Rahu. We have Saturn there. So there is a strong sense of duty there. Saturn's all about the duty. Mars is all about the drive. Don't get me wrong. I mean, Mars and Rahu there, this is somebody that's quite ambitious. This person, Rishi, they really feel like they can make their mark. So I feel like he's looking at it as a challenge. Like, I'm really going to make my mark right now. I can do this. I know I can figure out the country's problems. So that's what I'm seeing when I look at it. One other thing I want to point out is at the moment, remember that transiting Rahu is in the sign of Aries, and that's going over the sun, which is making this even more powerful. It's already exalted. But check it out in the Navamsha chart. So the Navamsha chart's the one over here with the number 9 on it. It's going over the 10th house. Rahu's in the 10th house. Look at all these factors that come into play that are making Rishi a prime minister. So transiting Rahu, the sun, and then all these planets in the first house are being activated. And this is creating the circumstances to become a prime minister. So it's quite impressive. So this person is they are a hard worker. I wouldn't consider this person, you know, 100% pure. I mean, they got the Mars there in the 6th house, or they got Saturn there, and they got Mars there. So there is this kind of argument going on inside of the individual right here. Remember how I told you Mars represents the accelerator, Saturn represents the brake? So there is this idea of maybe he has a really good, you know, some good ideas with Mars there. But then the establishment, which is represented by Saturn, is kind of holding back a lot of those good ideas. And it could be like the old or the old world order, so to speak. They're really holding back a lot of the good ideas that he has. So this is going to be quite a frustrating time, because even if he has good ideas, he's going to feel like he's being blocked in a lot of ways. So let's go to the chart. The next bhukti that he's going to be in, I feel like there's going to be a massive crisis very soon. And this is actually highlighted by Rishi's chart. There's this Mars Mahadasha, and we're going to explain it in just a moment. It's just pretty amazing that on November 15th, he's going to enter the Mars Mahadasha. We know the solar eclipses are happening. We know there's all this planetary energy with Mars retrograde on October 30th. And a lot of astrologers have been saying, look, it looks like we're going to be entering in some sort of global crisis, whether that be some sort of, war provocations or financial type of problems. There's definitely, from what I can tell with the astrology, there is this like really crazy wave of crisis coming this way. So I feel like Rishi's going to be the one that he's going to be dealing with it. So this is going to this is going to be a test of, how much nerve does he have to deal with this. The temptation to quit is going to be very strong, and I'm going to show you in a minute. Let's go back. So the Mars period. Oops, did I show you guys what time? So the Mars period's November 15th. It goes, and when we're looking at the Mahadasha, it's a 7-year Mahadasha. It goes till 2029. And it's Mars, but remember, Saturn's next to it, Rahu's next to it, so there's a lot of intense energy, intense pressure. That's why I feel like Rishi could become a wartime president. Somebody almost like a Winston Churchill, or somebody that they're going to be here when a lot of stuff is happening. So if he can weather this storm, he could go down as a very well-known leader in the future. But there is going to be a temptation to quit, and I'm going to show you why. Because the 9th lord is going to be activated with the Mars bhukti. But I feel like Saturn's going to keep, just out of pure sense of duty, I feel like he's going to stay. So when he's going through the Mars period, it rules the 9th house. And when people retire, or, it's a dharmic period, but when people retire, it tends to be a period of either the 12th lord or the 9th lord, when people like resign or they give up. But this is a little bit complicated. It's like one of those status updates. It's complicated because Mars, like if it was just Mars and Rahu, just without Saturn there, I would say, yeah, probably he's going to resign very soon. He might pull, he might do what Liz Truss did. But no, Saturn's there. This is the voice of duty. You have to do what you have to do. Like Saturn is like restraining Mars. Even if Mars wants to quit, Saturn's restraining it. So I feel like there's this sense of duty. There's this sense of like he wants to stay, he's going to have to stay. Even though there's going to be a lot of problems and a lot of crisis happening here next month when he enters Mars Mahadasha, which is a really intense period. The other thing to consider is Mars is activating, but it's also activating the sun. So again, it's kind of like this feedback loop that's happening. It's strengthening the first house because Mars is activating the sun. But the 9th lord being activated could show somebody becoming an incredible leader. And not just on, the 9th lord is not just a leader on a, the 10th house tends to be like a president or a prime minister, but the 9th house could show a leader that actually has a lot of courage or becomes a moral leader in some sort of way. So Rishi has the opportunity to become a really great prime minister. There is some free will in there, but he could become a really good one, even though I know people are kind of writing it off. They think he's really wealthy. Maybe he's disconnected from the people, but he really does have the opportunity there to prove that he's got some moral fortitude there. So I wish Rishi all the best with this because I want to see United Kingdom be successful. And I want to see the world become better. I know we're all trying to weather, post pandemic world. and it's pretty intense. So hopefully hopefully he can turn the ship around, and I feel like he's got the chart to do it. He's got the chart to do it, to turn some things around. You guys let me know what you think down below. Am I on the mark, or maybe I'm wrong about this? But we'll see here in the next month. I feel like there's going to be a crisis, and we'll see what that crisis is coming very soon. So until the next one, take care, everybody, and I'll see you later.